we were here as part of a trade mission with the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association. That was a trade mission that went to Guyana first and then here to Suriname, because we are looking to build that presence in the region. And we are very pleased that we have in fact been able to have two speakers from Suriname who would be joining us for Governance Week this year. First time we'll have speakers from Suriname. We also will have speakers for the first time from the U.S. Virgin Islands and from Statia and Saba. Statia and Saba, two Dutch Caribbean islands that are located very close to the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we were very pleased to be part of a trade mission earlier this year that allowed us to make those connections. Governance Week, as you know, is the signature event for us at CCGI. It brings over 50 leaders from around the Caribbean region to not just meet and network, but to discuss evolving issues in the area of governance. And there's nothing more critical at this time than the development of generative AI, which is going to be changing our world. And as such, I want to say a very special thank you to all the sponsors of Governance Week this year, starting with our platinum sponsor. Massey Holdings has returned for the second year as our platinum sponsor, and we are deeply grateful to them for their support. We also have two silver sponsors, Trident Trust from the British Virgin Islands, and Trident Trust has been a member of CCGI for several years now. We are very pleased with the relationship we have developed with them. Our second silver sponsor is First Citizens Bank from Trinidad and Tobago. First Citizens, of course, first joined CCGI as the foundation sponsor for the Institute and has been very loyal over the years in providing support for us here at Governance Week. We have 6 bronze sponsors this year. I'm so pleased 5 of them are from Trinidad and Tobago, and we have 1 bronze sponsor from Belize. So from Trinidad and Tobago, we have Republic Bank Limited, as well as PwC Trinidad and Tobago, Angostura Holdings Limited, which has been a sponsor for Governance Week for several years now. And coming for the first time as a sponsor for Governance Week, we have B-Mobile from Trinidad and Tobago, and Infosys Limited, which provides link services for us in Trinidad and Tobago. Infosys first provided sponsorship for us earlier this year when we brought Nandi Mandela to the Caribbean region. And we have been able to develop really nice relationships with them. So we thank them for becoming a sponsor here for us for Governance Week 2025. And our final bronze sponsor coming from Belize is G.A. Rowe and Sons Limited. And G.A. Rowe and Sons has been a member of CCGI for a few years now, started sponsorship for Governance Week last year, and we are so pleased to have them return as a bronze sponsor this year. And those of you who are familiar with Governance Week, you know we are in our 6th year. We begin with an opening ceremony on Sunday, and that will be this Sunday from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Trinidad time. The opening keynote is Fatima Abu Salem, and she's from the University of Beirut, the only international speaker we'll feature for this week, because our focus with Governance Week is bringing the leaders from the Caribbean region together in order that we can engage in dialogue, network, and share perspectives to help us all strengthen the way in which we deal with our governance issues. And as I was mentioning earlier, we do have some many of the speakers, in fact, for Governance Week are new for this year, but we have some first-time speakers from countries that we have never had before, starting with our opening speakers for each day. There's an opening speaker who starts at 11:30. And that opening speaker sets the tone for the rest of the day, where we will have 3 panels to follow. And for our opening speakers on Monday, it would be Eldon Marks from Guyana. On Tuesday, it is Ricardo Allen from Jamaica. On Wednesday, it's Javed Sajad from Trinidad and Tobago. And on Thursday, we have Daniela Richardson. Daniela is, in fact, the president of the chamber at Station Sabre, and she is one of those persons who we are really thrilled to welcome as a first-timer here with us at Governance Week. And we end on Friday with the opening speaker being Patricia Roseal from Barbados. Among our panelists for the first time this year, we have from Panama as well, Antonio Ayala, who is with Risco Company. He has an office in Trinidad and Tobago. We met Antonio again during the trade mission with the TTMA. And so we were very pleased that he wanted to be part of Governance Week, and so we have added him as one of our speakers on day 5. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have 2 speakers from Suriname who will be joining us for the first time. So I know Richard was attempting to get into the room earlier, but it appears that is he going to be able to join at all, Quantrell? Okay. It appears not that Richard's challenges makes it difficult for him to join us. Okay, yes, he said that he was having some spotty internet connections, which I understand. It usually is a challenge. And in fact, we are very grateful we are able to run this live at the moment because we are at the conference facility here for the Suriname Energy Conference. We are running through a hotspot right now, which makes it very interesting for us to know if the live stream is going to remain stable and steady and allow us to be able to do this this live stream. So it appears, can we ask Richard if he's able to try one more time? So we will get him because Richard is one of those persons who we have been connected with for a few years. He, as I said earlier, is the executive director for AmCham Guyana and someone with tremendous passion and energy for us to be able to bring about change and improvement to how our organizations are run. So Richard has been able to join us now. Let's see if we can manage this conversation for the rest of the half hour. Richard, hello and welcome to Governance Live.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning if you're in another country. My name is Richard Leo, and I serve as the Executive Director for the AmCham Guyana. And Kamla, it is certainly a pleasure for you to have me on building good governance within the Caribbean. Thank you.
It is awesome, and we are so happy that you could join us, Richard, although I know that you would have been having some internet challenges at the moment. So as Richard mentioned, he's the executive director for AmCham Guyana. Richard, let's talk a little bit about some of the governance practices in Guyana. It is a country that has recently been going through a boom as a result of the oil wealth coming to Guyana. There are a lot of international companies that are coming in looking to set up businesses. And so it means that there are lots of regulations that persons have to contend with. So in your opinion, tell us a little bit about how the companies in Guyana are managing in terms of setting up the governance practices that allows them to be able to work well with these multinational corporations coming in, particularly the ones from the US, since you're with AmCham.
Great. So first of all, yes, I do believe that the market has evolved and competition is certainly a good thing, as well as there has been significant investment by, I would say, Exxon and the Center for Local Business Development in helping to bridge that gap. So for example, companies pursuing ISO standards and them understanding the need to be compliant in terms of having audited financials, looking at things which were never considered like health and safety, meeting local regulatory requirements. The reason is unless you meet these standards, then only then you can compete for an oil and gas contract. So certainly these are things which are going to support the development of governance practices in Guyana. And we would certainly have, I would say, we would certainly support these types of engagements. On AmCham, and we do work a bit on building local capacity with local partners, and we even have a local qualifier checklist, which basically talks a bit about the market distribution capabilities of a local partner, the operations, and looking at their current track record, and of course, their financial and legal compliances. So in a nutshell, the oil and gas sector has certainly caused more people to adopt best practices, and I can only see this accelerating further. Thank you.
Go ahead and say that I'm trying to log back in.
Hi, Richard. Kamla has dropped off, but she's currently logging back in. Yes.
Certainly.
All right, so it doesn't allow me. Then it's a good place for investment.
So Richard, have you found it that the American companies have found Guyana a good place for investment?
Certainly, and Guyana has had, I would say, has made some strides in terms of its doing business. And that has been due to the enactment of new legislation, but also firms being able to have more confidence, if you want to call it de-risking investment. So let us look at it as an example in terms of the number of trade missions, the growth in US companies in country, but also the continued investment. So I believe and this is not just only in the oil sector, but looking into the non-oil sector like agriculture and infrastructure. More firms which previously would not have looked at Guyana are certainly considering or have actually been doing work in Guyana. So certainly more US content in Guyana, and there has been, I think that has been one of the reasons or the triggers for US Exim to come on board and to provide loans. So that is also an area which AmCham supports both local and US companies in Guyana.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you to speak to us a little more about Exim Bank, Richard. But first, I want to say that it's really good to hear that the companies are interested in industry outside of the oil and gas sector, particularly in agriculture, because of course we need to ensure that within the region, there's a measure of self-sufficiency, but more so because Guyana is rich in so many ways. And therefore, it's important to be able to develop all of these sectors so that the country does not suffer from Dutch disease, which we have seen happen with many countries where oil and gas became the dominant player. So tell us a little bit, because I know you also had led a trip to Florida with AmCham Guyana. Tell us a little bit about that and about the investment that Exim Bank is making for Guyana that would allow local businesses to be able to benefit. Yes, you're still muted.
Oh, yes. Yes. So first of all, the trade mission, we fielded over 23 Guyanese companies to the state of Florida. And this was done as a partnership with AmCham Guyana and the US Commercial Service. And this was the first time an AmCham led a delegation to the Caribbean Business Conference. Now, what we did is we did two facility tours of Port Everglades and Port of Miami. What was fascinating for me is that Port Everglades, their annual revenue, which is about 24 billion US dollars, is almost the size of Guyana's GDP. And just to see and to understand the level and the logistics of what they're doing, like having rails, they're able to touch 70% of the US within 24 hours. That to me was truly amazing. Like it was an eye-opener. Secondly, we focused a lot on the non-oil sector. So working on things like infrastructure, on healthcare, logistics, those were the companies which went on this trade mission. And I'm happy to say that all these companies had scheduled B2B meetings with more than 5 US companies, which the US companies are currently courting their local partner. So we do anticipate more US partnerships with local Guyanese. On the XM side, I believe back in about 2021, 2022, there was an MOU signed for about 2 billion US dollars. So there is basically a bank account that, I mean, and they did indicate that Guyana can borrow more than that. Now, what we would suggest is on the USXM website, you can see what are the key requirements, which would include 3 years audited financials. So this is for a company that has a proven track record, that has US content. So it needs to be a product that is either manufactured or has some US value added in it, as well as being exported from a US port, which could be something like Port of Miami or Port Everglades in order to qualify for that loan. Additionally, things like addressing things like, let us say there's a working capital and there's a working capital guarantee and you may need to find foreign exchange. That is certainly a solution which could help buy you some time to get some foreign exchange. So I do believe that the XM Bank can offer some very unique opportunities, not just for Guyana, but perhaps even for Trinidad and other Caribbean countries. Thank you.
Right. So therefore it means that the persons need not be members of AmCham Guyana to be able to apply. They can
Exactly.
apply, and then if the criteria.
This is USXM Bank, which is a separate entity. They have a congressional budget as well. So it is an entity which we would be happy to connect you with if need be.
All right. So good news for those companies who have US relations and who may want to engage in some sort of service or product out of the US. But one of the areas that we know could do with some development, Richard, is the area of the corporate governance code. So there was a code that was produced by the Private Sector Commission way back in 2011. We were very happy to sign a memorandum of understanding with the PSC last November to assist them in developing, revising and updating that particular code. It will be a great thing, in fact, to include all the stakeholders of Guyana so that there can be a Guyana corporate governance code in the same way that there's one for Trinidad and Tobago and there's one for Jamaica. In your mind, are you seeing that the directors in Jamaica, in Guyana, are open to the idea of having guidelines that would be common across the board that they would have to adhere to in this new area?
Well, certainly it depends on the hat that the director wears, certainly. And what I would say is it depends on the stakeholder engagement, as well as the buy-in broadly, as you mentioned, who the directors are at the time, because directors can change, but ensuring that there is broad consultation first with everyone, I think that would be key in the process before proceeding. Yeah.
Sounds good, and that's good advice for us at CCGI, because it should mean when we return to Guyana that we engage in a consultation process in partnership with the PSC to build awareness and to get that buy-in from the stakeholders, because it will help for there to be common guidelines that would enable everyone to know what the expectations are. And particularly because I think that there is now a desire to build the stock exchange in Guyana. So in which case then you want to have guidelines which investors will be able to turn to build confidence in making their investments. So Richard, one more thing I want to ask as we come towards the end of Governance Live, and that is in the whole area of artificial intelligence. As you know, our theme for Governance Week this year is governance in the age of generative AI. And therefore, we are looking at the fact that the environment is going to be changed significantly. We recognize there are major geopolitical changes happening at the moment as well. Lots of risks being created, but generative AI is in itself something that's going to bring tremendous change, maybe from inside or again. So ask him the question, are you seeing businesses in Guyana being prepared? Okay.
Kamla, can you please repeat the question? I think your connection dipped for a minute.
It did drop, yes. So I was asking Quantrell to ask that for me, but I think I got back on immediately. Yeah, so my question is, do you see the businesses in Guyana being prepared to deal with generative AI? Is there discussion around it in terms of how it will be used, policy guidelines and safeguards, anything of that nature?
I certainly believe that it is a valuable discussion needed. And I could recall like about maybe 2 years ago when we had someone this was in my previous role, someone just created, and I was like, it's not fully compliant. You need to get an attorney to look at it. So certainly looking at the use cases, reason being, if you are one preparing accounts or you are submitting a legal document, you may likely need at least a signature of such an accredited person, because these things are governed by laws. There's a reason why there is a bar association, why there is an accounting association. So certainly being able to understand the importance of adhering to such regulatory requirements, those are certainly valuable conversations I think you can facilitate. Thank you.
Yes, because the word that we have come to know and understand is hallucination. That you can ask the AI, you can give it all kinds of prompts, but there still needs to be that human verification of the information that is presented to you. Because it can hallucinate data, it can hallucinate cases, you know. But then there's also the challenge of misinformation that is happening, which of course AI can be a major tool in helping with that. So even more reason why there needs to be very strong governance practices and proper oversight on the part of directors to help guide their organization so that you could avoid these kinds of pitfalls. Has AmCham Guyana started these conversations with its membership in terms of policies and guidelines to manage AI?
While we have not started such, I do believe other BSOs have done that, and we are happy to collaborate on these types of discussions.
Sounds good. Well, certainly for Governance Week 2025, we'll have a wide range of perspectives from persons throughout the region, looking at the different ways in which we may be impacted, opportunities for businesses as well, and those pitfalls that we may want to avoid. And Richard, possibly following Governance Week, we may have discussions for later in the year of a possible collaboration where we can have and lead a discussion specifically for Guyana with respect to the use of AI and policies, because our discussions for this year, many of the experts have pointed to the need for guardrails. And those need to be put in place very early so that businesses, especially our SMEs, which may not survive attack of misinformation or a cybersecurity attack, for instance. So lots of room for us to collaborate, opportunities for us to share lessons learned and help build the Caribbean region so that we can all be resilient as we deal with the many changes that is confronting us from different areas. So I want to thank you so much, Richard, for taking the time to join us here for Governance Live. I know that you have a very busy schedule, and I appreciate that you were able to move locations in order to be able to connect with us for this live. So just share with us your final thoughts in terms of moving forward and possibly artificial intelligence in Guyana as we close off this Governance Live today.
Well, first of all, I think Guyana may soon be exploring having its own data center, as well as there has certainly been new laws being put forward. It is going to be quite an interesting time as we see and we learn from other counterparts like the EU how they are going to be regulating AI, as well as even concerns on how censoring is being done. So it is certainly a double-edged sword, and I believe that people are going to need to adapt or adjust to the new reality, but in the same breath, learning that the guardrails are needed, just how are they going to be going to have some oversight and manage. I think those would be the keys to success. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Richard. We appreciate you joining us for today. So enjoy the rest of your day, and we will be talking to you again soon. And so we bring Governance Live today to an end. Thank you all for joining us on this live stream. If you were not aware before, Governance Week is fully online, and therefore you could join us from wherever you are. Just visit us on our website and you will get information in terms of how you can register, because this is an exciting conversation that you don't want to miss. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Join us tomorrow when our guest will be Brian Imamshak from here in Suriname, followed by our chairman of CCGI, Nigel Romano, on Thursday. We end the week with Professor Bob Garrett, our global ambassador, and then we move to Sunday, our opening ceremony for Governance Week 2025. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye now.